to describe the Identifying Important Science Ideas practice in the context of the Megafires, Rare Occurrences, or the New Normal data puzzle. So the goal of this practice is for students to identify important science ideas introduced in an interactive reading we call a puzzle plot. And they're going to do this by engaging with the text and then connecting science ideas from the reading back to the opening scenario and the ideas that were elicited during that practice. After connecting these ideas, we're going to have students summarize important science ideas from the puzzle plot text by creating an annotated sketch, which functions kind of like a de facto initial model. Students will then identify and make a prediction for the investigative question the featured scientist, Natasha, is seeking to answer. And so teachers have facilitated part 2 here a couple of different ways, especially as it relates to the interactive reading. Most choose to read the text aloud as a whole class and pause to discuss graphics, maps, and watch the embedded videos. Other classrooms have had students read the text individually and study the graphics and watch the videos on their own. Regardless of your approach, we encourage you to utilize any close reading strategies that are a part of your normal classroom instruction to help students make sense of the text. So after engaging with that first part, eliciting students' ideas, and we've introduced Natasha Stavros, the fire ecologist, it's time for us now to learn more about Natasha's Megafire research by reading the puzzle plot text. And when students are reading the text, we want students to circle the investigative question that Natasha is seeking to answer. We also want students to underline any similarities they identify between the reading and the opening scenario and be ready to discuss those similarities after engaging with the text. Again, as you're reading the text aloud as a whole class or as students individually, we want students pausing to look at the video or watch the videos, pausing to study the graphics, and in particular, this graphic that's embedded in the text, which looks at the relationship between temperature and fire fuel dryness. Fire fuel, again, being sticks, grasses, things that would ignite and provide fuel for a fire. And so these are, we're looking at increasing temperatures, projections in time. And so temperatures in the Southwest are projected to get increasingly warm in the future. And these same projections for fire fuel dryness, we can see red being increasingly drier fuels. We see a relationship between increasing temperatures in the future and increasing fire fuel dryness in the future. And so as temperatures again are projected to warm, we might expect drier fuels, which potentially could lead to more fires, more intense fires, larger fires. After talking about some of these graphics and watching the videos, we want to have a whole class discussion and talking about what ways the current forest conditions in the United States, as described in the puzzle plot text, are similar to the conditions you might want if you were going to create a large bonfire. So again, bringing out some of those ideas, experiences that were elicited in the opening scenario and making those connections to the puzzle plot text. That's what we want students to do here. So after reading that puzzle plot text, we have students summarize important science ideas introduced in the text by completing some different tasks. One, we want students to draw and describe why forest fuels have become drier over time, and that's explored in the text. It's often helpful when students are constructing this de facto initial model, this first annotated sketch, to have a discussion about how students could use arrows to show changes in things like the amount of water loss through evapotranspiration, a key term that's explored in the text. We want students to record the investigative question and then make a prediction based on evidence about the investigative question. So I'm going to move now to the student worksheet so we can look at the puzzle plot text and these 3 questions together. And so here is the Megafires, Rare Occurrences, or the New Normal puzzle plot text. First paragraph looking at the term megafire and what that means. It can mean a number of different things, so defining that in the context of this resource. There's some text about fire exclusion, fire suppression practices, and how That has led to an increase in fuel. You think about the bonfire, you want a lot of sticks to make a big fire, and in our forests, in the western United States especially, we've suppressed fire, which has led to denser forests, more fuels. So we've got some videos about this and images to discuss. And not only do we have more fuels, but rising global temperatures, a changing climate has contributed to the loss of more water from these fuels, drying out these fuels. And so we can see rising temperatures and temperature projections to continue to rise, corresponding to drier fuel. So we've got more fuel and it's drier ingredients for these large fires. So a couple different videos to watch that. So after going through that text, we have students draw and describe why forest fuels have become drier over time. So thinking about the past and the present, utilizing these symbols from the key to just make this description about forest fuels becoming drier over time. We have students record the investigative question and then make a prediction about that investigative question here. After students make their prediction, they're ready to move on to part 3, supporting ongoing changes in thinking, where they'll analyze a data set to test their prediction.